Hey man, there's a moment in every connection where tension rises. Maybe she throws an attitude, maybe she starts pulling away, going cold, testing your boundaries, and in that moment, most men do what they were conditioned to do. They react, they argue, they chase. They raise their voice or try to fix the vibe with words. But the man who doesn't do that, the man who stays calm, composed, and completely unbothered, that man flips her entire emotional script. Because when you stay calm, it doesn't just silence the room, it forces her to start questioning herself. You have to understand, most women are used to emotional reactions. They're used to men getting thrown off balance. The second tension shows up, they've seen it so many times. Guys apologizing when nothing was their fault. Guys chasing after the smallest mood swing. Guys losing sleep over a delayed text or sudden distance. So when she throws a subtle test or starts pushing your emotional buttons, she's not just trying to upset you, she's scanning for leadership. And the man who stays calm under pressure, he passes a test she didn't even know she was giving. Staying calm is powerful because it interrupts her emotional rhythm. She's expecting tension. She's expecting emotional engagement. She wants to see if you'll bite. And when you don't, when you stay grounded, maybe even smile a little, maybe just breathe and say nothing, that calmness forces her inward. Suddenly, she's not focused on trying to shake your frame. She's wondering why she feels unsteady in hers. She's wondering why her old tactics aren't working. And more importantly, why you don't seem fazed by the very thing that used to control other men. It's not about manipulation, it's about emotional strength. Because the man who stays calm is the man who's rooted. He's not reacting out of fear. He's not trying to please. He's not playing the hero. He simply observes. And in that observation, he's gathering information, not to respond emotionally, but to decide if the moment deserves his energy. And when a woman senses that you're evaluating her energy instead of absorbing it, that's when she begins to self-correct. Not out of guilt, but out of respect. A calm man doesn't rush to fill the silence. He lets it breathe. He's not afraid of discomfort because he knows that stillness is where truth surfaces. When she throws a cold tone, when she makes a passive comment, when she tries to bait a reaction and you do nothing, just stay still, quiet, relaxed, that moment becomes a mirror, a reflection of her own behavior. And in that reflection, she has to ask herself, was that necessary? Was I out of line? Why didn't he flinch? And that self-questioning is what real growth begins from on her end. Staying calm doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't abandon yourself to care. You remain connected to your principles. You don't apologize just because she's emotional. You don't chase just because she's distant. You hold the line, and when she sees that your love doesn't come at the cost of your peace, she begins to rise. She stops trying to break your frame and starts aligning herself to it. Because deep down, every feminine woman wants to feel emotionally led, not emotionally rescued. One of the reasons women start questioning themselves when you stay calm is because, for once, they're not in control of the emotional outcome. Most women are used to managing the tone, the pace, the entire emotional climate. But when you don't play into that, when you don't match her chaos with your own, she's forced to slow down, to feel, to reflect. And whether she admits it or not, she craves that experience because now she feels emotionally safe. Not because you gave in, but because you never lost yourself. Let's get something straight. This kind of calm isn't passive, it's decisive. You're not ignoring her, you're choosing your emotional investment. You're not shutting down, you're opting out of drama. And when she starts to feel that your silence isn't weakness but restraint, she begins to see you differently, as a man who isn't led by impulse, as a man who doesn't perform for attention, as a man who leads through energy, not through explanation. That shift in her perception, that's what makes her start second-guessing her approach, not your presence. A woman will always test a man to find his edge, not because she wants to destroy him, but because she wants to feel where he ends and she begins. And when you blur that line, when you fold, when you explain yourself too fast or apologize just to keep the peace, you lose that edge. But when you stand firm, breathe deep, and say little, you give her something most men can't: certainty. And that certainty doesn't just calm her, it makes her feel safe enough to stop testing. A woman can only question herself when there's nothing external to fight against. That's the secret. When you react, argue, raise your voice, or try to justify your intentions, she has something to latch onto, something to push against, blame, or redirect the emotional pressure toward. But when you stay calm, when you stand still, and speak little, the only person left in the emotional ring is her. And now, instead of deflecting, she's reflecting. Instead of trying to control the vibe, she's searching for where the vibe shifted, and often that leads her back to her own behavior. What most men don't understand is that emotional intensity doesn't fix feminine chaos. Emotional certainty does. You don't match fire with fire, you smother it with stillness. You quiet the storm with your presence. And the more you make that your default, the more she learns that her emotional flare-ups don't move you. Not because you don't care, but because you don't collapse. And once she realizes that, once she feels that her moods don't destabilize you, she starts to regulate herself. Not to please you, but because your composure makes anything less feel childish in contrast. Your calmness also removes the reward from her drama. If she's used to attention, reassurance, or emotional validation every time she acts up, and now you give her nothing, that absence rewires her mind. She's no longer getting a dopamine hit from emotional theatrics. She's now faced with a man who treats peace as his baseline and doesn't reward noise. That's when she starts adjusting. That's when she starts asking herself, why did I react like that? Was I looking for attention? Did I need to say that? That internal questioning? It's not shame, it's alignment finally beginning. When you stay calm, you also give her something she rarely experiences, a mirror with no distortion. You're not spinning her story. You're not inflating her ego. You're not diminishing her either. You're simply reflecting her back to herself. And in a world where most people are quick to react or project, that kind of mirror is shocking. It disrupts her automatic behaviors. It makes her pause, and in that pause, she finds growth. Not because you lectured her, but because you gave her nothing to bounce off of, just clarity, stillness, truth. This is why women often apologize later when you stay calm during conflict. Because as the emotion fades and the storm settles, all that's left is your consistent presence. And when she compares her emotional volatility to your groundedness, she sees the gap. Not because you rubbed it in her face, but because you didn't. That contrast between your calm and her chaos creates something rare: respect. And respect, more than attention, is what creates lasting desire. Because it says, I can trust this man to hold the line, even when I lose mine. Staying calm also removes fear from your leadership. You're not trying to control her. You're not using silence as a weapon. You're not punishing her. You're simply choosing your peace over performance. And when a woman feels that your boundary isn't coming from anger, but from emotional sovereignty, she knows she can't manipulate her way back in. She has to reflect. She has to show up better. She has to step into emotional responsibility if she wants access to the man who doesn't flinch. A calm man teaches a woman more about herself than any lecture ever could. Not because he says more, but because he moves differently. He's not accessible 24/7. He doesn't open up at every emotional spike. He doesn't need to fix every disruption. And that restraint shows her where she still needs to grow. Because now she's not just in a relationship, she's in a container of emotional truth. One that doesn't bend for drama, one that doesn't rush for comfort, one that forces her to meet him where he already lives, in peace, clarity, and masculine stillness. You don't have to explain your calm. You don't have to defend it. You don't have to prove that you're the bigger person. You just be. You breathe. You pause. You speak when it matters, and when it doesn't, you let the silence work for you. Because in that silence, her thoughts start echoing, her assumptions get louder, and without you correcting her, she has to confront the one person who's been making things messy, herself. That's not punishment. That's what growth looks like when you stop giving her emotional shortcuts. Eventually, the calm you carry becomes the standard she either rises to or retreats from. You won't need to ask her to self-regulate. You won't need to beg for maturity. Your energy will make it clear this is a space of grounded love, not reactive emotion. And the ones who are ready will feel safe. The ones who aren't will feel exposed. But either way, you'll stay calm, because your power never came from controlling her. It came from never letting her control you. So remember this, man. Staying calm isn't weakness, it's supreme masculine control. It's leadership in its purest form. It doesn't beg, it doesn't argue, it doesn't chase, it simply stands. And in that standing, you give her the chance to either meet you with the respect you've earned or remove herself from the table. And whichever way she moves, you stay the same. Because a calm man doesn't get shaken by emotion, he shapes the world around him with it.